Gifford, Illinois, a quiet village in Champaign County, is a place where life moves at a steady, familiar pace. With a population of just over 900, the town is known for its agricultural roots and tight-knit community. But in May of 1997, this peaceful, Midwestern town became the centre of a troubling mystery: the disappearance of 19-year-old Heather Dawn Mullins Zimmerman. According to her mother, Ann Mullins, Heather loved sports such as tennis, softball and basketball, enjoyed listening to rock music, and adored animals. She was much loved by both of her parents, her sister, and her brother. Heather was last seen on the evening of May 26, 1997, on Memorial Day weekend. At approximately 8:30 p.m, she took a soda from the refrigerator and left her parents' home in Gifford, allegedly with a friend. It is believed that she went to a party that night in a mobile home park off Route 136 in rural Rantoul, a nearby town. According to unconfirmed reports, Heather was dropped off near her family's residence at around 3 a.m. on May 27th. However, she was never seen or heard from again. After a few days, her parents, Anne and Ron, grew increasingly concerned and reported their daughter as missing. It wasn't unusual by any means for her to go off for a couple of days, but something felt off this time. Heather's exact movements on the night she was last seen are unclear, making it all the more difficult to piece together her final known movements. She didn't have access to her own vehicle at the time and relied on others to drive her around. At the time of her disappearance, Heather was facing difficulties in her personal life. Her husband, Michael Zimmerman, a US Marine, was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and their marriage was reportedly troubled. According to the Champaign County's News-Gazette, when Heather suffered an accident that required some surgery, Michael was granted emergency leave. However, he went AWOL. He was later captured and jailed for this offence. Some accounts suggest the couple were separated or even divorced at the time, but this cannot be verified. According to Heather's father, Ron, earlier on the night she disappeared, she appeared upset after receiving several phone calls who Ron believed was his daughter's husband, Michael, but it's unclear whether it was actually him or someone else. While living with her parents during her husband's deployment in Japan, 19-year-old Heather continued working part-time as a clerk at Casey's General Store in Gifford. Despite any emotional strain in her relationship, those who knew her found it completely uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning. Adding to the mystery, Heather left behind all of her personal belongings. Interestingly to note, her purse had been stolen prior to her disappearance, and she was not carrying any credit cards, cash, or identification. She also never collected her final paycheck from Casey's, indicating she had not planned to vanish of her own accord. This sudden and unexplained absence led authorities to launch an extensive search. However, no trace of the 19-year-old was ever found. In June of 1997, police received an anonymous tip from an unidentified man claiming that Heather Zimmerman's body had been placed in a borrow pit. Despite conducting a thorough search of the site, investigators found no evidence to support the caller's claims. This was just one of several searches conducted in connection to Heather's disappearance. In June of 1998, authorities also searched a remote area in Paxton, Illinois, also known as Dogtown, an area where 3 gravel pits that has frequently been the focus of missing persons investigations. During that search, canine units alerted to the possible presence of human remains, but no physical evidence was ultimately recovered. A decade later, another unsettling incident occurred that drew haunting parallels to Heather's case. On March the 9th of 2007, 20-year-old Jamie E. Harper left her mother's home in Paxton, Illinois, to attend a party at Maplewood Estates Trailer Park on the 1300 block of Laurel Drive in Rantoul with a male companion. She left the gathering early on the morning of March the 10th, but similarly to Heather, Jamie never returned home. She vanished without a trace and has not been heard from since. Susan Carer, Jamie's mother, though initially hesitant to report her as missing due to her daughter's history of staying away for several days at a time, eventually contacted the police the following week, concerned for her welfare. However, this time was different. Jamie left behind all of her personal possessions, including essential medications for her epilepsy, suggesting she too had no intention of staying away of her own volition for a prolonged period of time. Subsequent searches were conducted of the Rantoul residence where Jamie was last seen, as well as surrounding roads and bodies of water between Paxton and Rantoul, but unfortunately Jamie was not found, nor any evidence to indicate what had happened to her. Rather interestingly, shortly after Jamie's disappearance, another anonymous tipster contacted the authorities and claimed that she had died of an overdose and that her body had been hidden in a remote area of Dogtown, the same area indicated by the previous anonymous tipster in the Heather Zimmerman case. The gravel pits were thoroughly investigated once again. Using boats, sonar equipment and search dogs, investigators combed the secluded wooded area and its water-filled gravel pits. Additional searches were later carried out on a private property and along the banks of the Middle Fork River near Armstrong in Vermilion County. But sadly, no evidence connected to Jamie or to Heather was ever found. It was at around this time that many realised that Dogtown had also been searched during the investigation into Heather Zimmerman's case years earlier, raising further speculation about a possible link between the two women's fates. In an effort to generate leads in Harper's case in particular, a reward fund was established in 2009 at the Frederick Community Bank in Paxton. Although the account was closed in October after years of inactivity, the $2,900 raised has been retained by Ford County Crime Stoppers. Combined with a separate $1,000 reward previously offered, a total of $3,900 remains available for information that could help solve this case. Crime Stoppers President Dennis Higgins stated that while the money is still earmarked for the Harper investigation, tips have largely dried up in recent years, and the passage of time has made pursuing new leads increasingly difficult. Additionally, it should be noted that Heather Zimmerman's family have also offered a $5,000 reward for any information regarding their daughter's disappearance that could lead them to the truth about what happened to her. Investigators have acknowledged that both cases of Zimmerman and Harper share striking similarities, including geographic proximity, social context, and the fact that both women were last seen after attending parties in or near Rantoul. Even more troubling is that the same unidentified male is considered a person of interest in both disappearances. Despite this overlap, authorities have not officially connected the two cases, and the identity of the person of interest remains undisclosed to the public. In 2022, in an article published by the Ford County Chronicle, some details about the man were revealed, including the fact he was 30 years old when Jamie disappeared, and that he had served time in prison for aggravated battery. Authorities interviewed him shortly after Jamie disappeared, but he gave inconsistent statements, refused a polygraph test, and ended the interview defensively after being shown a photograph of Jamie. Police later tracked his movements out of state, eventually arresting him in Florida on unrelated burglary charges. While in Florida, he reportedly made a vague confession whilst intoxicated, saying, quote, "I did something really bad." Following his extradition and imprisonment on burglary charges, the man's father's rural Armstrong property was searched. Interestingly, police recovered items such as clothing, a burnt bucket, and metal hair clips, but none could be conclusively linked to Jamie. During phone calls from prison, the man dismissed the investigation as baseless and advised his own family not to cooperate with the authorities. He later received a 20-year sentence for aggravated domestic battery, with parole eligibility in 2032. Despite being the primary person of interest, he was never charged in connection with Harper's disappearance. Investigators also questioned Jamie's boyfriend, who gave conflicting accounts of that night. Initially, he claimed he left the party to handle business while Jamie found her own way home. Later, he said he passed out at the party and awoke to find her gone. Witnesses reported seeing Jamie leave with the person of interest while her boyfriend was asleep. However, the person of interest's girlfriend offered a different version of events, stating she left before Jamie did. Both she and another witness passed polygraph exams. The host of the party provided yet another timeline of events. They suggested several people left at around 3 a.m. and didn't return. He later found Jamie's boyfriend in his trailer the following morning, claiming he had passed out. Despite interviews with all attendees, conflicting stories and a lack of physical evidence have left the case unresolved. Items such as a blood-stained seatbelt from a minivan Harper was reportedly travelling in earlier that same night yielded no significant breakthroughs. To this day, investigators have not been able to determine what truly happened to Jamie, nor to Heather, for that matter. The cases of both Heather Zimmerman and Jamie Harper remain unsolved, but unforgotten in the communities of Gifford, Rantoul, and Paxton. Though separated by a decade, both women vanished under eerily similar and equally suspicious circumstances, leaving behind devastated families, unanswered questions, and a growing sense of unease among locals. Both disappearances are classified as endangered missing persons cases, and foul play has not been ruled out in either instance. As years pass and leads grow colder, the hope for resolution rests on any new evidence, new witnesses, or renewed investigative momentum. Until then, the names Heather Zimmerman and Jamie Harper remain etched into the collective memory of East Central Illinois, symbols of lives interrupted and mysteries left unsolved. A remembrance stone in Gifford's Roessler Memorial Park was erected in memory of Heather on the 10th anniversary of her disappearance by her parents. Even after 28 years, both Zimmerman and Harper families continue to search for answers. At the time of her disappearance in 1997, Heather Dawn Mullins Zimmerman was 19 years of age. She is described as Caucasian, with blonde hair and green eyes, standing at 5 foot 6 inches tall and weighing approximately 115 pounds. She notably has a tattoo of 3 roses with black stems on the outside of her left ankle. Her left ear is pierced 8 times and her right ear is pierced 6 times. She has scars on her left arm, left wrist and left index finger, and a mole on her neck. She is also right-handed, and her left ring finger doesn't function properly. On the day she vanished, Heather was wearing a medium-sized Sears navy blue and white striped chambray shirt, a pair of size 9 stonewashed Xanadu bell-bottom jeans, a size 9 or 9.5 black St. Michael's pair of shoes, a Mickey Mouse watch, a gold ring with 6 diamonds, diamond-studded earrings and gold ball earrings. If alive today, Heather would be 47 years old. When Jamie E. Harper vanished in 2007, she was 20 years old. She is described as Caucasian, with brown hair and brown eyes, standing at 5 feet tall and weighing approximately 130 pounds. Her ears are pierced, as is her left nostril. She was wearing a nose ring when she disappeared. She also notably has a tattoo of a tribal design on her lower back. Jamie suffers from epilepsy and is required to take daily medication. She did not take any with her. When she vanished, Jamie was last seen wearing a white jacket, a pair of blue jeans, and a pair of sandals. She also carried a black handbag on her person and may have been wearing a necklace bearing the initial J on it. If alive today, Jamie would be 38 years of age. Those with any information regarding the disappearance of Heather Zimmerman are urged to contact Champaign County Sheriff's Office at 217-384-1213. Alternatively, those with information regarding the disappearance of Jamie Harper are also urged to contact Paxton Police Department at 217-379-4315 or Rantoul Police Department at 217-892-2103, as both are actively investigating her case. Remember, even the smallest piece of information that may seem insignificant could be the key to solving these cases.